Paradise Papers. Where have we heard it all before? Panama. So many times the media has a habit of doing what I call the relay repetition theme behavior. And there's usually an agenda behind it. There's always a leak, making it sound like some concerned insider wanted you all to know something that everybody already knew. It seems just an opportunity to bang a familiar theme or drum, kind of like weapon removal in the USA. There's always an incident. There's always a politician ready to say, if it doesn't prove that we should already have done this. And with regards to Panama Papers and now the Paradise Papers, very shortly after the Panama Papers, I've realized that it's a reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods. A reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition. Frequent repetition is a reliable way to get people to believe in falsehoods. Because, and why does this work? Why does it work and why do the media and the control structures use it? Because familiarity, in other words, something that occurs often, is difficult to discern from a truth. You become comfortable with a story that you always know the theme there too. Familiarity is difficult to discern from truth. Hence the value of a perpetually repeated narrative. Why we were having a spate of one after the other Black Lives Matter type incidents, and then must remove guns from US citizen type calls, and cops are all evil racists type themes, and now we're having a tax papers theme. So let's just get my take on this. These people, by the time the socialist, bleeding heart journalist types who've never run a business, made a payroll, or done anything significant apart from write up what they're told to with a slant that they're supposed to have done bleeding out about individuals that have legally taken legal measures to keep a control structure from stripping them of everything they make and punishing them for their success. These bleeding newspapers, these bleeding heart journalists write about how they are again and evil oligarchs and buzzwords that are designed to provoke an adverse response from you towards these people. In other words, you're meant to hate on them. You're meant to hate on successful people. Divide and conquer is the game. And in this absolutely hollowed out Gini curve of extreme wealth and extreme poverty, you're meant to hate on them even more. And the control structure wants that, needs you to resent people for doing what is logically, financially sound. Tony Robbins, far from being the bastion of financial services, did write a book, and thankfully he spoke to most of the most interesting people. Go read the passage on accumulating and doubling your money every year in a business, and then see that number, and I think it's 20 times if you start with $1,000 to get to $1 million. See what you get to if 30% is taken from that number every single year, the change it makes in your outcome. You'll be shocked. And most people simply don't understand the power of compound interest. Now, I'm not saying everyone should pay 0% and should be allowed to double their money every year without contributing to the greater society and to people that maybe never had quite the same chance of them. But what actually is the case is that tax money goes towards funding Saudi Arabia, selling them arms to blow up Yemeni kids, starting a new war, building missile locations on the Russian border, bailing out banks, for example, to the tune of absolute hundreds of billions, stealing the country's silver and leveraging it back. Think Royal Mail in the UK and selling it off cheap to your city mates. All of these kind of activities are continually pervade tricks that the government are pulling while building debt on your name against your future revenues. So you think your tax money is going to pay roads and save the National Health Service, which is quietly being destroyed. And in actual fact, your tax money is going to create further leverage and further debt to be interest payments thereon, so that aggression, geopolitical manipulation, overthrows in Libya, overthrows in Yemen, overthrows in every known nation that has any modicum of strategic interest. The control structure does what control structures do, and that is manipulate and play a grand chess game that you have never voted for. And they want to keep you divided and conquered. They need the successful amongst you that are doing efficient things and legal things to preserve your wealth for your family and for the hard work that you've delivered, to be resented on by those that have not manifested. And you've got to decide which kind of people you are. If you're not there yet, do you want to hate on somebody that you actually want to be? Are you going to allow this third force? This is what I call a drama triangle, where there's the perpetrator and the victim, and the third party is the one that creates the drama triangle and says he's hurting you, whether it's a race-based item which victimizes and puts people in the victim seat, for example, like Black Lives Matter, and the white cop as the perpetrator to create resentment. The real enemy is that third silent force that is creating the divisiveness. It's not the two parties that are being separated as a thesis and an antithesis. It's the control structure that is dividing and conquering. That is your enemy. What are you doing with the money? Who gave you permission to do the things you do? How dare you generate an unsustainable Ponzi scheme that will blow up in every citizen's face? How dare you destroy pensions, state pensions, that the US actually are 46 trillion in the hole, and Britain in a proportionate way equally bad, and in Western nations the world over an actuarial nightmare? How dare you? What are you doing? Turn and face that shadowy figure that is creating this cockfight between red and blue, perpetrator and victim, and recognize who's the orchestrator of this event. Do all that you're entitled to do legally to protect yourself from all control structures. That is my take. The people that are doing it are heroes. They are not vicious, team players. It's all about community and being a team player when it comes to tax. But then you see what the government does, both in all its decisions, and you realize they act on behalf of themselves and the people that put them in power, not you. And when you realize that, you realize this is just another repetition narrative that you will continue to hear. And it'll be Paradise Papers, Panama Papers, it will be Belize Papers in 6 months' time, it'll be British Virgin Islands papers. It's going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming. Every 6 months, they'll rewarm the narrative, keep you loathing on somebody, keep us divided. And I suggest that you put this out of your mind entirely and get to the point, if you're not already there, where you too can be making intelligent measures that will preserve your wealth against a control structure that is out of control and is not acting in your interests and should be the one facing the spotlight. So forget the little journalist weasels that want to bleat like babies, and get them to turn the lights on their real masters that are setting the agenda that they are so quiet and tired of on. The Chilcot inquiries, the Dr. Kelly, I've touched on some of the topics. 100 years since the creation of the Israeli state via the Lord Balfour Rothschild's letter. Go look at these things, drag the real matters out into the front, and leave people alone that are manifesting and are preserving their wealth for their families and have worked hard and have paid VAT and general sales tax all the way through, and many times tax, and are sick of paying tax upon tax. Anyway, that's my take on that. Don't be divided. Don't be conquered. Watch out for the repeated narrative, like cars running people over in city centers. What are they at there? That one keeps coming back.